really like what you're doing. This is why I jumped on. When you said you want a badass dad, they don't get much more badass than me. So
Yeah, I love that, man. Let's kickstart with that, man. It was awesome to see that response. So tell me what was it about the video that I did, or even like the just me calling out like where are the badass dads at, right? What was it that kind of spoke to you that made you want to reach out?
well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of TikTok. I'm not going to lie,
Yeah.
but I found that the TikTok, the algorithms, I've created this platform that just feeds me positivity and stuff that I'm really interested in. I don't listen to all the crap and all the rubbish. I'm into motivational stuff, business stuff, and now I'm a dad. I come across your content. I liked it. I thought, okay, I like this guy. I like what he's talking about. So I followed you, and then I
Nice.
saw a post. It said, "I'm looking for badass dads." Now I don't think there's many dads out there who are more badass than I am. So I jumped on it straight away, and here we are.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. I looked you up, and you know what, to be honest with you, when you mentioned who you were, I'm like, this seems a little weird. So I did a little digging, right? And I'm like, no way, right? Like I'm a big fan of bare knuckle, man, by the way. I'm like a martial artist myself. You saw some of my pictures, but like,
Yeah.
been doing jujitsu for about close to 6 years now. Fell in love with it, right? Love everything to do with martial arts. Had, did a little bit of Muay Thai, but very, very little. But love it, right? Everything from boxing all the way up to you name the style, I can appreciate it, and obviously the blending of it. But when I saw who you were and you reaching out, man, it was so exciting for me because I'm like, oh, cool. This is the world I really like to kind of be in, and it gets to blend in, what I'm trying to do here with dad carts also. I'm super excited, man.
Yeah. I saw you was into jiu-jitsu as well. That's a big part of my life. I've been doing that for
Yeah,
17 years.
yeah.
I won a few fights with jiu-jitsu at the early stages of my career. So I'm all about that.
Awesome. Awesome. So, hey, you mentioned some controversial views, man. Feel free to let's dive in. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that is it something as a dad that sticks out to you of like, man, this is a huge issue. It needs to be addressed. I want to get it out there. I want to talk about it. I want to create conversations about it.
Well, look, I mean, I'm 47 now. My boy is 18 months, and for my whole life, I never wanted a kid. I grew up in the UK, and personally, I think that the laws and the rules and regulations there surrounding fathers stinks. I think
Yeah.
it's disgusting how they're treated. I've watched very close friends of mine literally kill themselves, and I'm not
Yeah.
exaggerating. Like
Yeah.
kill
Yeah.
themselves because they couldn't see their own kid. Now they might
Yeah.
not make the best father, the best partner or the best husband, but that doesn't mean to say they're not a good dad. And they were
Yeah.
fantastic guys and loved their kids and had to go through court cases for years just to get some
Yeah.
time with them. And it's disgusting. I hated it. So anyway, I
Yeah.
never wanted kids in the UK. I come and moved to Thailand. It's a very different thing here. We're back into
Yeah.
the traditional ways of fatherhood and motherhood. And I
Yeah.
absolutely had it, got an amazing wife and had a baby. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations. Congratulations. How's it different being what do you think is the difference between, say, like the UK that has this very, I think, archaic type of structure for dads and dads' rights, and I'd say in the US it's very much the same. I think there's a big parallel there also where there's a huge need for a reform of dads' rights in the legal system. Well, how is it in Thailand, and what made you choose Thailand, I guess, of all places?
Well, Thailand, I came here to see a friend, funny enough, loved the place, ended up working for Fairtex, which is a huge global
Mm.
brand in the fight game, and then went on to one championship and now on to BKFC. But, that's kind of why I'm here. But when I was here, obviously got to meet my wife, and it's like, wow, this woman is amazing. She's supportive, she's strong, she's kind, she's caring, she's loving, she's sexy. And I just thought, this is the
Mm-hmm.
woman that I'd love to raise a son or a child, whether it's a man, boy or girl,
Yeah.
with. So I was very happy. And the thing is, as I say, back in the UK, it's like I never, I didn't trust the women I was with. I just didn't feel that the system was the way it needs to be for me to be comfortable. Because okay,
Yeah.
I get married, I have a kid, and all of a sudden, I don't know that she might just get fed up with me one day and then use that
Yeah.
kid as a beating stick. And look,
Yeah.
I'm personally a very good husband. I'm very loyal, very faithful, and I work hard and support my wife because it works both
Mm-hmm.
ways. I'm not the sort of person that's going to roll over and let someone beat me with my own child. It's never going
Yeah.
to happen. And I figured
Yeah.
to save everybody a lot of hassle, I would not
Mm-hmm.
have. Here it's very
Yeah.
different. We don't have like the women. They pick the man. They have a
Mm-hmm.
child. They don't get all the support. They don't get all the money and the government
Mm.
handouts. You don't get you
Yeah.
don't automatically get control of the child just because they're the mother. Even though I
Right.
do, the child should most of the time be with its mother. it's just nice to know that that child is never going to be used as a beating stick and hung over my head.
Yeah, or used as kind of like a bargaining chip, right? I have a family member who's going through the exact same thing, man, where they're great dad, he does the best he can, and whatever happened, his significant other, former significant other, mother of his child, is leveraging their child and just to basically, because she still wants to be with him, right? So she's basically cutting out all the court appointed visits, right? They had a settlement plan, and he was supposed to get him on the weekends. She's not abiding by it. She's not living by it. Guess what? The court really doesn't care, right? They basically say, well, tough luck, bring it back up, and then, hire your attorney again or keep them on retainer, come back, and then we'll talk about it. And obviously thousands of dollars later, on top of the thousands you've already spent, it's just this nightmare. And, I agree with you. It's when children are used as kind of a bargaining chip, it's horrible. It's disgusting, honestly.
It's a very tricky situation because look, if the father's not suitable to be a father, then I agree with 100%. But 9 times out of 10, I've seen it in the UK where the woman literally just has a kid with one guy, then another guy, and she's now living pretty. She hasn't got to worry about work. They don't even want to go to work. They're getting handouts. So they get handouts from the father. They don't let the father see the kid. They get handouts from the government. They get a house from the government. It's like the system is set up for them to create a life where they have complete control. Now, I do believe that a child should always be with its mother, but sometimes these kids are the ones that suffer. Now, the women, they get emotional, they make decisions, they don't like the father or they still love the father, but whatever reason, they have control. And I think it's fair. And yeah, that's one thing I couldn't stand about the Western world.
Yeah, I think it really needs to change a mindset of, just because the woman is the natural nurturer doesn't mean that by default she should be the one that should be in custody of, or complete custody of, the child, right? Because it takes both parents. I'm a big advocate of, you need the mother in the life, you need the father in the life, and there's different things that we bring as men, and there's different things that women bring as women, to that nurturing, or to the nurturing of a child. So completely agree with you, and that totally makes sense why you would do that. So what do you think?
Very different here. It's very different here. It's a two-way street. I have a wonderful wife, and a lot of my friends have got Thai wives, and they're all the same. They're very happy. Very traditional style of relationship, which isn't for everybody, but it works. Works where we are here.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? I think we've shied away from that, right? The traditional kind of family where, with mother, father, kids, whatever it may be. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with other people's lifestyles, whatever it may be. You choose whatever you do. I'm personally like, leave me alone, let me live how I want to live. That's all that matters to me, right? And so that's nice. So you mentioned badass dad, right? Tell me about that. What do you think makes a badass dad? Tell me all about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so yeah, that's a really interesting question you raised. So I personally think, I'm a badass dad because I'm coming from a background that is very different to most. So I had a very troubled start in life. I had a very good family background, but I was trouble. I was just completely out of control. I had anger. I was violent. My dad brought me up with a lot of respect for women, old people, children, animals. I was never a thief. I was aggressive, violent, and angry. Anyway, that caused me to go off the rails and a lot of problems in my life. But those problems have actually taught me a lot. But the reason I say I'm a badass dad is because I'll give you an example. So my kid's gone to preschool for the first time ever the other day. And we turned up there and the teacher said after, oh yeah, he's great. He done really well. But he needs to learn to share his toys. And I'm like, whose toys? They said his toys. I said, they're his toys. They said, yeah. Why does he have to share them then? Like, I don't know this kid. What? This is my son. If he's gone out of his way to pick up these toys and he's playing with them, just because some kid comes over and wants to play with his toys, my kid's supposed to share them. I'm like, no. Listen, I'm raising a winner. I'm not raising a snowflake. I don't care what the world says about people's feelings. I don't care. As long as he doesn't cheat, doesn't lie, doesn't steal to get to the top, my boy is going to get to the top. And that's the end of it. He's going to win. I don't care if this little snowflake's upset because he's not as good as running or he's not as good as competition as my son. My son is going to keep kids alive. That's how I'm raised. That's why I'm a badass dad. And I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I love that, right? we live at a time where it's becoming, unfortunately, more and more common to give out these participation trophies and ribbons and saying, you know, it's okay to be mediocre. It's okay. You tried your hardest, right? Oh, that's all that matters. And it's complete bullshit, because that's not how life works, right? You never get rewarded for being second, right? It never
Right.
happens. The winner always, you know, gets all the accolades, all the respect, all the everything like that, right? And people have this kind of misconstrued viewpoint that because you win or because you're competitive, that it's a malicious thing, right? And it isn't, right? It's usually the people that win are usually competing against themselves, not against anyone else, right? You're forcing yourself to get better, and that's how you get there.
You nailed it, bro. Like, I love that. So listen, you can see where I come from. Okay, there is no runner up. If you don't win, you lose. Right? I don't want to be a. If I lose, I'm going to take that loss, and it's going to eat me up until I win. I want my son to be the same. And I've been researching it. It's quite interesting. Like the whole education system under any government, pretty much, is it's designed to make you a perfect little slave. Okay, they don't want you an outside of the box thinker. They don't want you being like myself, free and away from all of their clutches. They don't want that. And what I found in research is that by the age of 7, this system is imprinted in them. It's like it's imprinted in them for life. Go to school, work hard, don't stand up, don't question anything. You know, then go to college, get a career, get a job, get a mortgage, have kids. That's life. You're fucked. That's you. The balls. The government's got you exactly where they want you, or they want you to go to university. They'll lend you the money, $100,000 or whatever it is, to get a degree. You're paying that back to your life. They've got you right where they want you. That is never going to be my son's life. Okay, I'm not gonna make him do anything he doesn't want to do as such. There are things in to do. Okay, that's it. But I'm not. If he's got a passion and wants to go a certain way, I'll encourage it. But he's going to learn how to manage money. He's going to learn. He's going to learn a millionaire mindset. Simple as that. My kid is going to be responsible for a lot of money, and if he goes to school under their system, he'll lose that money.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like telling those the people that are, you know, putting these, they're trying to create these systems where the worker bees just fit in, right? And they don't want anyone else to figure out how to create those systems, how to build these things that are already built, or that are bigger, or that could compete with the systems that they've created, right? And that's why school, like traditional schooling, is, I mean, it's on a very quick path to extinction, right? Because we're living in an age where, I was just talking about this earlier. I was with my mom, and we're watching YouTube videos, and we're watching like Greek mythology things, and like videos on the Mayans and things like that. I'm like, back even like 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't find this stuff. You'd have to go rent some obscure VHS or DVD at the library. There's no way that you could find, you know, all this stuff, and it's at our fingertips right now, right? And creating things is so easy. You can start it from your phone, right? I started this podcast with my phone, and, you know, a couple videos, and learning how to edit things, right? And it's amazing what we can do, but it's still kind of this traditional push to, no, you know what, just go to our system, use our system, and fit in here.
Yeah, dude, like I said, the first day at preschool, he's 18 months old, and they're already, oh, you must share. Now listen, saying that my kid won't share. I'm not saying he won't be charitable, but here's the deal. If he shares, it's not going to be with some entitled little brat that wants something and he should just get it, okay? Because that's not going to happen. If my boy's got something and he's worked for it, he's damn well keeping it, okay? I'm training my boy to be a monster, a controlled monster. And I've said before, any kid that steps up to him under any competitive environment in today's modern system is going to get destroyed, because I'm not bringing them up that way. And like you said, the schooling system, it brings you up to be average. Average.
At best,
No way my boy's being average. No way. Not unless he absolutely wants to be average, then that's up to him. But no, not if I've got anything to do with it.
Well, it's that thing, right, where they say you don't have to be an engineer, you don't have to be this, you don't have to be that, right? Pick something that you actually care about, and that is meaningful, and you care about, and just be the best at it, right? Whatever it may be, right? There's a woman who's a beekeeper who's like amazing, and she's like the most well-known beekeeper, right? Then you want to be a beekeeper, be that, but be the best damn one.
Brilliant. So I actually worked on a thing called the 14 plus provision many years ago. I was a lecturer at college. And I had this way with the kids that were like 12 years old, and they were literally about to go into probably prison if they didn't sort their lives out. It was called the 14 plus. at that point where I had to make changes. And I started off with 6 in a group, and within just a few weeks, I had like 24 kids turning up regularly. And I had the whole college to my disposal. I could take them anywhere and do anything. And what I used to do was just take them around and try all these different things until I see a spark. Like one kid wanted to do a marathon. So I got him on a treadmill, give him a training plan in the gym, and we got him enlisted onto a 10K run at first. Another lad wanted to make it to the army. So I brought the army in, and we showed him what he had to do to make the grades. But my point is this, I found a spark. Okay, I don't believe you can make these kids do what you want them to do. You've got to find the spark. Said, okay, is this what you want to do? Even if you change your mind later, doesn't matter. You tell me now, is this what you want to focus on? Yes. Yeah. Okay. If you're going to focus on it, then you give it your absolute best. You don't accept less than your absolute best. And it doesn't matter where you finish or where you place, as long as you give it your absolute best in every one. And that's all I'm really looking for. So I'll encourage him to go whichever route he wants, but he's going to be the absolute best at it. However, there are fundamentals that he needs to know. So, you know, you've got to learn maths. Here he's going to have to learn Thai, but he's going to have to learn fundamentals of being a millionaire, because the millionaire, they won't teach you at school. And it's created by the rich to keep the poor poor. For example, I mean, look at these sayings. You've got money can't buy happiness. Absolutely bullshit. That's a statement made by the rich to keep them rich and keep the poor poor. Money doesn't grow on trees. How ridiculous is that? Okay, look. Made of wood. It's one of the biggest industries in the world. Fruit grows on trees, and we can even cocaine grows on trees. I mean, money grows on trees everywhere. Money is everywhere. So the rich create statements to keep the poor poor. So I'm not letting my boy fall into that trap.
Yeah, I think you touched on a great point earlier about how, you know, with traditional school systems and with traditional learning, they're not showing you how to think critically. And I think to think critically that's where you find those opportunities, right? That's the difference between a person who looks at the tree and says, you know what, I can chop that down, or I could chop it down for my neighbor and charge him X amount of dollars, right? And you know what, there's a bunch of these trees, every one of my neighbors has the same problem. Let me just go around the neighborhood and ask all of them if they need it, right? That's the difference between someone who is taught or is shown how to think critically and someone who isn't, right? The other person would say, you know what, there's a lot of trees here. That's a huge problem. Maybe I should see if there's like a college degree on how to like figure this out, or maybe I'll go into like urban planning and, you know, take a $70,000 a year job, and then maybe we'll get together and have a committee and we'll figure out how to do this, right? You know, that's the difference, right?
That's exactly right. Like I look at these statements, like for example, this money doesn't grow on trees. I mean, how many times you heard that as a kid growing up? Well, you've just
a million times
quite clearly that's bullshit. I mean, it really is. Again, it's the rich creating these statements to keep the poor poor. The system is designed for it. The schooling system, the education system, the job, get married, get a mortgage. It's all designed that. And I just don't want that. And I want him to have options. But like you've said, you just created, even just by looking at a tree with critical thinking, you come up with a myriad of ways to make money from a tree, you know?
Yeah, no, seriously. And, you know, it's the money doesn't buy happiness thing is absurd in that sense of when you really, if you think of it directly like that, it probably doesn't. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, right? That's ambiguous. But if you think about like what money gives you, and that's typically freedom does buy you. Freedom is happiness, right? When you can make decisions of, I don't have to get up tomorrow, or I can get up tomorrow, but I can get up whenever I want because I know I can, you know, allocate my hours however I want, probably how your schedule is. That's happiness to me. I mean, who wouldn't want to control their life and say, you know what, I don't have to take some 9 a.m. call if I don't want to, or I can move it around. I can be with my kids, right? I can play with my kids, and you know what? Fuck that meeting. I can wait later. It can be later. It's fine. It's not urgent.
See, there you go. Okay, money can't buy happiness. Well, look, if you could put happiness in a bottle and sell it, then money could buy it. But money also can't buy misery or sadness. But what it can do, like you said, it can buy freedom. Freedom, I'm sorry, allows you purpose in life. That purpose gives you happiness. So absolutely, money can buy you happiness.
100% agree. So you're a martial artist. Tell me how martial arts has shaped your life. You fought professionally in MMA. You do jiu-jitsu. You do Muay Thai. I saw a video of you with Sanchai, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, man. That's cool. It's like on my bucket list to one day meet him and hopefully even get like mocked by him. I love his videos where he just like kind of mocks people. I love that. What's martial arts mean to you, and how does that apply as a dad?
Wow. I mean, look, I think my whole strategy or ethos for parenting is completely deeply rooted in martial arts. So I started martial arts when I was 5, judo and taekwondo. My mum wouldn't let me box. She didn't want getting hit in the head. I mean, whatever. I think it was ridiculous, but I later went on to MMA. But what I found is so I had a lot of trouble at school. But when I had martial arts in my life, everything was good. I broke my leg, come away from it for a few years, and everything was bad. And then I come back to martial arts when my leg got better, everything was good. And then I had to come away from it for some other reasons. And that's when life went completely spiraling out of control. And it was bad. And then I come back to martial arts and since then competed and won a couple of titles. And my whole life has just been completely governed by it. So me, it's a big part of my life. And I would like it to be a big part of my son's life. From the age of 3 months old, he's been grappling his teddy bears. I read him doing like Americanas and leg locks and arm bars on his teddy bear. Got some pictures I'll send you.
Yeah, love that.
It's the whole ethos around, especially jiu-jitsu. Now you'll understand what I'm about to tell you. To get into the purple belt, okay? You've had your ass handed over and over again. You've been
thousands.
Right. You've been taught humility and respect. And as much as my kid's going to be a monster, okay, and I mean that, he's going to be ruthless. He's just going to have winner written in his DNA. I still want him to be respectful. I still want him to treat women right. I still want him to understand the difference between, what's right and wrong. I don't want him to certainly don't want him being a bully, because I hate bullies. I used to beat bullies up at school. So I think martial arts will teach him all of that. Discipline, respect, confidence, so much, as you well know, that we can take from martial arts.
Yeah, there's so many lessons, man. There's you hit on the humility piece, right? When you go into, for me, going into the first time I went to jiu-jitsu and just seeing like, the long, lanky kid that was wearing glasses. And, I started jiu-jitsu when I was like, I think I was 25, 26. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything, but I think I should be all right against that guy, right? Just got my ass completely handed to me. And I'm like, Jesus, this guy looks like he plays chess, and he just like beat the shit out of me. And it's so humbling, because you're like, I really don't know anything. And I start thinking, like, I got flashbacks of like, oh my God, I tried picking fights like at some point in my life. And I'm remembering like, I was at some point like at a bar or something. I'm like, man, I probably avoided so many, like I've skated by so many ass whoopings probably just out of like pure luck. So it gives you this whole new perspective of just like, I tell all my friends that don't train, of like, some people think it's like, oh, look at their ears if they have cauliflower ear. I'm like, some people don't get it. Like, I'll tell you that first. Like, it's just a genetic thing, I think, for the most part. But I'm like, just don't pick fights. That's the best advice I can give you. Don't go looking for a fight. If you can potentially run away from a fight, just run, because it's not, unless your personal space is invaded and you have to defend yourself, don't do it. It's not worth it. And
especially on the street. I grew up on the streets, fighting on the streets, and this is the early days before I did jiu-jitsu. I was very, very good. And then I was never a bully. I never started trouble. But like you, I don't realize how close I come to death so many times from doing that. It's a dangerous place to be. But with my son, I can teach him through martial arts, through having my ass handed to me by small little guys, and like to a point where I was completely helpless. I'm going to teach my son exactly what you just said. Listen, you need to have confidence. You need to know how to defend yourself, but it's all about defense. We're not looking to cause problems, not looking to start trouble. I don't want that for my son. I was a thug. I was a terrible little tearaway when I was younger. And I think, martial arts and looking back at my mistakes is hopefully going to make me such a better parent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I bought my daughter, who's barely 10 weeks old, I bought her a gi like 6 months ago, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for her to somehow fit into it, even though I don't like training in the gi, but I'm like, we got to start in the gi, and we got to learn some of it. But like,
what color's the gi?
How's what?
What color gi?
Oh, it's pink. It's white and pink. It's a Fuji gi, so it's got like little pink accents.
Oh, you got a Fuji? Yeah, you got a Fuji.
Yeah, I got her a Fuji one. So it's legit. So later on we'll move up to something else, but yeah, and my wife's all for it, right? And I told her, this is something you got to take a backseat on, and you need to just trust me that this, this changed my life. Same way with you, as it just completely changed my life and changed my outlook on a lot of different things, everything from personal relationships to how I conduct myself in work, how I, giving me the confidence to do different things, whether it's in work or personal projects, or, things like this with Dad Cartel. I don't know if I'd ever have the confidence to do something like this without that. And, I think it's so important. And, it's more than her. I think it's like a 50-50 split. I want her to be able to defend herself because it's a dangerous world, right? We all know that. And then the other part is all the lessons that come from it, right? All what the ass whoopings give you, right? The humility, the perseverance, the resiliency, the confidence. It's just invaluable.
I love that. Dude, here's a point. Think about this. We're talking about the school curriculums, and I think they suck. All I want my son to go to school for is socializing, maths, English, and Thai. And the rest are teaching. But you think, like, especially in the Western world, I mean, England's terrible. We've got this culture now where, like you've said, it's all about participating and you get an award for taking place. Well, if he comes home with an award for taking place, we'll throw him a fucking bin. Okay. But you imagine a black belt, if a jiu-jitsu black belt,
oh man,
full curriculum, right? None of that shit would happen. There'd be in there. You've got to earn your respect. You've got to learn to lose. You've got to learn how to bounce back from defeat. None of that. Part shit would be even in the curriculum.
No, 100% would it. You know what I like this expression where maybe it's not an expression, but it's a thing, right? Where I think in martial arts, and I think it's prominent, it's prevalent with jiu-jitsu, but I don't know about in striking arts, probably in striking arts too. But within 5 minutes, maybe even less, like a minute, maybe 30 seconds, you can tell what rank someone is. You can tell how long they've been training. You can say that guy's legit or that guy's not legit. You can't fake it, right? You can't fake that stuff. And, I approach a lot of different settings in that same type of way. You in the business world, I'm sure, see that too, right? Like, that guy's full of shit. That guy isn't, right? The way he's conducting himself, the way he's approaching a negotiation, he's either legit or he's not legit, right? And I get that from martial arts now, because I can say he's showing me, or he or she is showing me the skills and the demeanor and whatever it may be to justify what they're positioning themselves as.
Absolutely, dude. It's funny you mention this, because obviously I've done it all: wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai. I trained with Roger Gracie, George St. Pierre, literally regularly on the training camps. I've obviously met Borkhao, Sanchai. I mean, I've met some of the greatest, Randy Couture. I've been in this industry a long time. And there's a difference. The jiu-jitsu side of things is great because it does teach you humility. It teaches you a lot faster, but in a very respectful way. When it's striking, it's slightly different. You do realize when there's levels, but what you find with the striking is you get these thugs that come in off the street. Since school, they've been bullies and they've never really felt a loss. They come into the gym and they think they're smart by telling you, I've had about 300 fights, I've never lost. And I'm standing there and I'm like, you're surrounded by professional fighters that don't have any respect for that. And you've just said that out loud. And then they cannot handle loss. They're just not prepared for it. And this is obviously why I think for my son to understand martial arts is very important, because I need him to learn that very early on. Like, we're not about bullying. I can't have my son bully, and I cannot have him ever raise his hand to a lady. I don't care what she's done. And you'll learn all this. You already know this. He will learn this from martial arts. And I'm actually, I've done a lot of training in my time, but I'm going to coach him a little bit, but I'm going to pick someone else to deliver that role for me. I will encourage and nurture him. But I want someone else. So I've got specific people in mind that I know are very respectful and can deliver those roles for him, because I think me getting too involved in it would, I can guide him, but I don't want to coach him too much.
It might make them shy away from it, right? Like your son may say, you know what, I'm not interested in that anymore. But you handpicking the coaches, I think that's a great idea, right? You have to surround yourself with the best, right? Whoever it is that's close to you and available, and it's not just a skill set thing; it's also like a mindset thing, right? How do they approach it? Are they trying to push people to be winners, right? Because you've probably come across this, right? Coaches who probably in certain situations are too passive, and they'll just say, okay, yeah, nice try, or they dedicate themselves kind of to like almost this like beginner class type of mentality of I'm just bringing people in and I just want everyone to have a good time, that type of thing. And then there's the comp teams, right? The big teams, the global teams that they're like, fuck that, we're a comp team, you're a winner here. Even if you're not going to compete, you're going to help the competitors get ready, and we're
There
going
you
to
go.
grind here, right? You know, we're
There
going
you
to
go.
grind here. And that's what's important. So
That's a
yeah,
very good point you make. You're here, like my son, if you're in that team and you're not the best, you get in there and you help the best. You help those guys become the best. That's part of the journey. I love that. Yeah. And again, this is where I'm saying, like, my kid is going to be a winner. He's going to be a bit of a monster, but he's going to be completely under control and respectful. But that doesn't mean to say he's not going to know when there's a time to help someone, or when there's a time to be charitable, or when there's a time to share. There will be, but I just don't like this entitled mentality. This Western world is promoting at the moment, and I don't want him to engage in any of that.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. So you mentioned some of the top fighters in the world. So who stands out as some of the most like badass dads, badass fighters that you've come across, besides yourself, obviously?
Dude, I've spent my whole life around badass dads. I've trained with, I actually didn't know George. I trained with GSP and I've trained with Roger Gracie, but I didn't know them as fathers. But then I've got friends like Mark Godbeer, he's the bare knuckle valor champion, the first ever bare knuckle tournament that took place. Ken Shamrock ran it. My good friend Mark Godbeer won that, and he's got 2 daughters, and he's one of the baddest men on the planet. But when he's around, he's very, very different. It's really good to see. So he's one of the most badass dads, actually. Actually, he phoned me up and he said to me when he found out my wife was pregnant, he said, dude, I swear to God, all of my badass mates, he said, they have daughters. You're going to have a daughter. I said, bro, I don't know. I think it's a boy. I just got this feeling. He said, no, we all have daughters. I've had 2 now. And it was a boy. So I was,
man.
Funny, but Mark Godbeer is a badass in every sense of the word. Certainly a good dad. I think he fought in the UFC and spent pretty much his entire purse on a pony for his daughter.
Oh man, that's awesome. As a dad who just had a daughter, I could totally see that, right? Like she melts my heart, man. So that's awesome.
This is what I'd like to ask you. So I've got a boy, and when his first smile, I spent my life toughening myself up in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
I see him smile for the first time. I'm melted like a chocolate teapot. And I'm wondering, you've got a daughter, yeah? And she's 10 weeks.
Yep.
She smiled yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The first time she smiled, and the first time she smiled when, like, as a reaction to me, like I smiled at her and she smiled back. Man, it was probably like about a week ago. It was like, man, it just lit me up, and I'm like, wow, that's a feeling of happiness I've never felt before. It's amazing.
Look, I've spent my whole life being angry and aggressive. Okay, I've just been a fighter my whole life, and this is the first time in my entire life, I'm 47 now, where I actually feel more love than I do anger, and it's so powerful. I've never been a believer in God ever until now, because I'm like, I've always been in the science realm. I went to university, studied science and stuff, and I'm like, science has always got an explanation, but there's no explanation for the way that kid makes me feel. That has to be God. Now, I don't know any more than that. I certainly don't believe too much in religions, because I think someone's wrong, probably most of them, but I definitely now believe in God. And anyway, going back to you, so you've got a daughter, I've got a son. I want to have a daughter next, but whatever I have. And I just desperately want to know the difference, how it feels from being a father to a son than it is to a daughter.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get a son at some point too. But kind of to your point, some of the baddest guys I know, like my former jiu-jitsu coach, he's a black belt under Ryan Hall, and he's a former special forces, like just total badass, like warrior type of guy, and he has 3 daughters, and I'm like, oh man. And then this other guy, now same type of thing, like all these guys that I train with, daughters, and I'm like, yeah, I think I would have a daughter. Just the same type of thing with you. Like growing up, I just got in street fights and just fucking total just mess as a kid. But yeah, it's one of those things. But for me as a girl dad, I guess the term, right? It's just, I don't know. I'm just like completely in love with her, right? I just think of like, I can't imagine the day that she's just gonna like leave home or like get married. I can't fathom that idea. I joke around with my wife and tell her like, the only way she can date is if the guy she's dating can beat my ass, or even like be remotely competitive with me, right? And it's just like, that's not gonna happen. Like I'll let them break my arm before I like would tap or something. But I'm just like, I say it jokingly, but to me it will be important, right, when she reaches that stage, and that's obviously far along the road. But she'll need a protector, right? It's important as men that we're protectors, and I'll absolutely like require that.
See, this is the thing I was thinking. I mean, I would have been happy either way, and I still would be with the next. I'm just loving being a dad. But I did think to myself, if it was a daughter, I mean, how would I act? Because I was quite protective over my little sister back in the day. I had two sisters. I mean, I got into a lot of fights over them. I beat people up because of my sisters. Thinking, shit, I'm going to manage a daughter. So in a way, I'm quite pleased that I have a son first, because it gives me time to become a father, because I think I'd have been a terrible dad for a daughter.
Yeah, you might need the warm up first, and then say, you know what, okay. Yeah. No, I'm preparing myself for the day that like we take her to the playground and some little boy pushes her down, and like, all right, let me find his dad and let him like rectify that situation. Otherwise he's gonna pay the consequences for him not fathering his son correctly.
When we was at school, we used to say, my dad's bigger than your dad. When my boy says it, there's a very good chance that I am bigger than their dad. So I want to make sure that their son, I mean, if my boy gets bullied at school as well, that's something I've thought about a lot. How do you deal with that if he's getting bullied? I mean, I'll tell my kid, just walk up to the biggest one and punch him straight in the face. Like, I don't care what the school says. If they throw you out, don't worry. You know, come on, we'll take care of you. You ain't done nothing wrong. As long as you're not the bully and you're sticking up yourself. But then you think, you know, there is a big difference between the size of these kids. And I put my kid in that situation and he punches a big kid and he gets beaten up and it dents his confidence. What's the right? I mean, it's a really tough job, isn't it?
It is. And you know what, your son will have the benefit of being highly trained, so I don't know if he'll ever run into that problem, right? Size does come into play, right? But you know, when you're, you know, a toddler and you know technique, it's like it's night and day, right? I had a friend growing up who he was a smaller guy, but he started boxing early, right? And you know, he there was a bully kid that was like probably double, triple everyone's size. I got into a fight with him. You know, he tried bullying me. I stood up for myself. I was a scrawny kid. I got my ass beat, but I stood up for myself. I could live with that, right? He tried doing the same thing to my friend, who was a boxer. He actually fought like Golden Gloves and did well. I think he won. Just beat the crap out of the kid, and it changed them. It changed the bully to, like, you say, oh, you know what, shit, maybe size doesn't matter, right? And that to me, it was like one of those like David versus Goliath moments where it made me fall in love with martial arts, right? There's a million different things that kind of made me fall in love with it, whether it's like Bruce Lee or the UFC or, you know, whatever it may be, right? But that moment was definitely one of them too, where you're like, oh wow, like the smaller person could potentially win if they train and if they dedicate themselves.
Yeah, I believe that entirely. I mean, I was ruthless as a kid. I'd fight anyone. I would fight kids, 2 or 3 kids at a time. In the year above me, I just didn't care, and I very rarely come unstuck. It's a mindset thing. I think everything in life is a mindset. As I say, I'm going to bring my boy up to have the right mindset. But here's a question for you, actually. Now, look, I grew up, and I'm not even exaggerating. I've just spent my whole life as a badass. Okay, my whole life is about being tough, facing fear. You know, I mean, really, that's all I've ever really been interested in, is proving myself to myself. But now I'm scared of everything. Like when he goes running through the house on a tile floor, I'm just freaking out, going, slow down. And then he goes under the table, I'm worried he's going to stand up too quick. And I swear to you, I have literally, you know, the tatami judo mats we use in and interlocking jigsaw mats. My whole covered in them. I've got them I've got padding around the corners. I've even got patches on the doors and the drawers you can't pull open and take knives out. And dude, I'm like, spend my whole life scared. I explain it. It's like, you see them Superman movies. You remember Superman when he gave up his powers and he got hit and felt pain for the first time? That's how I'm a fearless motherfucker. Now I'm scared of him. That's hard work. You feeling that?
Man, I am. It's one of those things where, you know, I recently felt that, what was it, probably about 4 to 5 weeks ago. So my daughter started getting sick, and we're like, okay, like slowly, right? She starts getting like sneezing, and we're like, all right, let's keep an eye on this. Maybe it's allergies. We live in the middle of a desert, so it's entirely possible. And then it kept going, cough, and she just started looking lethargic and started looking horrible. So we go take her right away to the urgent care, the
Mm.
clinic, and then they're like, yeah, you guys should probably go to the hospital. So then we're like, holy shit. So we go to the hospital, we're in the waiting room, and if you've ever heard of even the remotely heard of American healthcare, it's like, it's shitty, it's expensive. And we're there waiting, and luckily we're only waiting about an hour. They run a battery of tests on her, check if it's RSV, if it's COVID, if it's whatever. And while we were there, probably 2-3 hours, it was probably the most terrifying 2-3 hours I've ever spent in my life, right? And luckily everything came back negative, and it was just a really bad cold, which actually took a while for her to get better from. But
Yeah.
man, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and like had guns pointed at me, and was in gang fights and got in all sorts of fights, and you name it, I've kind of done it too, kind of like your background. And
Yeah.
man, nothing ever scared me as much as that. And it's just
Doesn't
like,
even come close, does it?
not even come close, man. And
And
it's
the
kind of
first
like,
time as well. How old was she?
she was 4 weeks old at the time.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So we're the clearly stood out in the ER room, and everyone's looking around like, oh my God, like you guys have a baby, and there's toddlers in there and whatnot, but they're like, wow. So they escalated the situation. But yeah, it was scary, man. It was scary. And we're not sleeping, and we're just staying up all night and just trying to get through it. And we got
Mm.
through it, luckily. And luckily she's perfectly healthy now, big and chunky.
Dude, I completely relate to that. I honestly know how you feel. I actually got COVID. I was in Bangkok on some
Yeah.
business. I started feeling a bit odd. And I phoned my wife, and I got quite a nice villa. It's quite a large villa, and you can shut half of the house away. I said, babe, I'm
Yeah.
on my way. Get everything out of the room and shut that side of the villa. I'll be in this
Yeah.
side, in
Yeah.
that side. It was only it was about 2 months old, and I got it bad. I was hit for 6 days, and then it was about
Yeah.
4 days in, I heard her getting it, and I'm like, bro, I
Oh man.
freaked out. And then he got it, and his temperature went through the roof. We freaked out. Next
Yeah.
morning, it was like nothing happened. They're more resilient than you
Uh,
realize, aren't
oh man. Yeah, they're so resilient. It's just like, but the feeling, right? And I'm sure you could relate to it at the time, was like, give me all of your pain and I'll take it. Like, I don't give a shit. Like that feeling of like, you hear it, but when you feel it, it's a whole different thing of like, I would gladly die for you. Just like, I'll take
they?
everything that you're feeling. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
as long as you're okay. And
Bro,
we
did you?
can't.
Sorry, carry on, carry on.
No, I was just gonna say, we can't do that, unfortunately. But that feeling lingers. Yeah.
Right. Did you see Ryan Reynolds interview? You know Ryan Reynolds, he played
Yeah.
Deadpool. Did you
Yeah.
see the interview he did? It was unbelievable. It was brilliant. He said, when I met my wife, he said, I fell in love with her straight away. He said, I've never met anyone that I loved as much as her. I would literally take a bullet for that woman. He said, but then when my child was born, the very second I saw that baby, I knew right there and right then I would use that woman as a human shield to protect that baby. And I just thought, he's brilliant. I mean, you use yourself first, wouldn't you? Because you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was brilliant the way he explained it. I mean, it really is
Yeah.
kind of that way, isn't it?
It,
And
it
I'd
really
expect
is.
my wife to use me as a human shield if she ever needed to. Put me in front of that baby's
Oh
danger.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, I've talked these scenarios. Me and my wife talk about like whatever scenario possible, right? Like we talk about like, if someone breaks into the house, here's the situation, right? And here's what's gonna happen. Go lock yourself in that room. I'm coming out with all the guns, and don't come back until you hear the safe word, or that type of thing. And I've
Yeah.
told her, I'm like, if we're in that situation, don't worry about me. Don't look back. Just keep going, right? Like just keep going. I'll be fine, and it's that thing, right? Protector of, I want them to be okay. I want our baby to be okay, and I want the only way my baby's going to be okay is if she's with mom, and mom's going to take care of her, and I'll go handle whatever I need to handle.
Good man. That is your duty as a man. I love that.
Absolutely.
I knew when my son was born, and I just see his hand come out the crib, and I knew that very second that I don't matter anymore. Only in the
Yeah.
sense that I am there to do my duty and protect that family at
Yeah.
all costs. Like whatever it takes, I'll put my
Yeah.
life on the line for them. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's your duty, my man. I respect that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Man, where do you think most dads fall short? Like, we talk about the participation trophies, we talk about like the 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 promotion of mediocrity. Where do you think a lot of dads are struggling?
Well, okay. I personally think that this, I mean, that's a very broad, sweeping question, because everybody's got their faults. I mean, I'm going to have my faults. I'm going to make mistakes. My dad was. But I think that the biggest issue here is human psychology. Okay. Humanity in general is so ill prepared for life. Okay. The whole world is an absolute mess because of how ill prepared we truly are. Like when you think about how dynamic and how complex relationships are, how much actual training do we get growing up? How much training do we get to be a parent? How much training do we get to understand human dynamics, human psychology? Like, we don't. This whole world is just full of people that are ill prepared to be parents. Now, a lot of parents out there are great. They spend time in studying. I do. I still think I'm never going to be as great a parent as I'd love to be, but I just think fundamentally the human race is flawed. I don't think we are good role models in general. I just don't think we are. I look at these governments, the system, the way it's hypocrisy at its best. I mean, I just think fundamentally it's flawed. And I think as well, here's the big issue, which is quite controversial, how I feel. Now, if you look at a man and a woman, okay, man wants sex. Always sex, 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 sex. They don't think about anything more. Now, you can't criticize them for that, because that's how we're programmed. It just is who we are. Okay, it's been like that. Cavemen, it's going to be like that till the end of time. Women, okay, they control the sex. Okay, so if you're in a relationship, the woman decides when it's sex time, right? It's as simple as that. And it's respecting man will respect that and understand that. So here's my thought. Honestly, I think the women should choose. I mean, look, there's deadbeat men out there everywhere. The women need to have a little bit more responsibility when it comes to having the babies, because they're in control of the sex, and they need to make sure that the man they choose for a husband or a father isn't such a deadbeat, because then they have a baby. They can deadbeat, they've left and they won't pay them social security, and it's like, but you chose that guy. Now, a lot more time, a lot more preparation. I mean, as well, a man has a responsibility. He needs to step up to the plate for sure.
100%.
But fundamentally, the problems lie early stages, and I see a lot of people now, they're having babies, especially here. Like, some girls are talking about having babies with guys they've only known 3 months. I mean, what the fuck is that about? Because that's what really pisses me off. The whole world is just full of dysfunctional people having babies and they shouldn't. And you know, call me what you like. That's how I feel. I mean, I've waited a long time. I'm very financially secure. I've got an amazing wife. We've been together 4 years. We planned everything perfectly. We've got enough money to support him, his future. I'm not saying I'm perfect, and it's the right way to do it as such, but I feel like I've done it the right way. I think a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's, you know, a lot of people, they don't put the proper weight on the decision, right? It's just this impulse thing of I'm not gonna use protection. I'm not gonna, like, it's not gonna happen to me, this type of thing, or they just don't care, right? And there's implications for all of our actions, and especially for not wearing protection, not doing the due diligence of doing something like that, having a child with someone who you barely know, right? And, you know, people act surprised after the fact, and it's like, if you dated the person and you took the time to get to know them, I'm pretty sure we can identify the red flags. Right. If the person can't hold a job down, right? The guy can't hold a job down. The guy doesn't talk to his family, or he's never, you know, he doesn't have a friend that's longer than a month, right? Something like that, showing commitment issues, things like that. It's going to become pretty obvious that he's probably not going to support any child that you would ever have with him.
Right. Exactly my point. And then what happens is you're left with a child that's got no chance in the world, and that makes me sick. Like, I look at my boy, and he's going to have every opportunity to be the best that he can be. And it breaks my heart when I see, like, for example, some women have a baby because the relationship's not good and they want to try and fix it. Big mistake. Some women have a baby with a guy because they want to capture him early. Big mistake. Some people will have babies because they want to get a visa to stay in a certain place. I mean, where on earth are they getting these ideas from? When are they going to stop and think about the real issue here? You've got a young life that needs parents to bring them up in the right way. But I can't tell you how fucking angry it makes me. But that fundamentally, I think, is the issue. People are short-sighted. They don't plan. They don't think, and they've got this issue with self and instant gratification. Only think about themselves at that immediate time. And in the UK, you know, it's a fact that women will have babies just because it gives them a better standard of living, and they'll get rid of the man. They never wanted the man in the first place. They just wanted the babies to get the house, to get the social, and get rid of the guy. And then where does that leave the baby without a father? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There
There was a clip I think recently circulating around about that very point. I think it was where I think it was like a young girl who was like 4 or 5, was like playing dolls or something, or playing house or something like that. And she was saying like, I just want to have kids with someone. And they're like, well, do you mean like, do you want to have a husband? She's like, no, I just want someone to have a kid with me so that I can get on welfare and I can get child support.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, these are children saying this. And you know, where do you think they're learning it from, right? It's this perpetual vicious cycle that they're learning from their mothers and from women who are settling for that kind of, you know, that life. And you know, it's a disservice to themselves, and it's a disservice to their children 100%.
Yeah.
And to their communities, right, to wherever they live. And it's just a terrible way to live. And you know, that for sure I think needs to change.
It's a huge problem. Exactly what you just said. Now, look, I know a lot of great parents back in the UK, some wonderful women that have got great families. They do an amazing job. I'm not saying everyone's like it, but here's the thing. It's disproportionately in favor of the people that don't think properly, don't plan things properly, because the people that do really want to do things properly, they're less likely to have kids so soon and so many. They're going to spend time planning it. So what's happening is, from what I've seen, is there's just this whole world growing from dysfunctional families. I know it's
yeah. And you know what, to me it does a disservice to, so there's my dad was in and out of prison, and so like my mom raised me pretty much on her own for majority of my childhood. And you know, it was in the US, it's so fucked that she worked a job, did her best, and could have used help, right? And she was doing the right thing, working as much as she could, trying to make ends meet. And really, she could have used help, applied for it. They're like, no, you make too much money. They're like, you know, we could really use it. They're like, no, you don't, you could quit your job. They told her like that. You can quit your job and then just get benefits. And she's like, I'm not doing that. Like, not doing that. I'll figure it out.
fair play to
And
her. Should have been in
yeah,
the right.
yeah, and you know what? It's one of the many things I admire about her. You know, taking that hard route again, taking the hard route's not always. It's never going to be the easiest route, but it's going to be the better route, right? You're always gonna see a benefit from it later, because it's if you're doing the right thing, even when it's hard, and that, you know, you're gonna reap those rewards at some point.
Totally agree. I mean, respect to that woman, man. Fair play. Because here's the thing. I sit here and preach on about my beliefs and my values, and it comes from a very narrow-minded place. I mean, I've only got a certain amount of experience in the world. There's so many factors out there. There's so many people with totally different viewpoints on life, totally different experiences, negative or positive, that changes everything. I mean, there's no one answer fits all, is there? There really isn't. But one thing that does bother me a lot is that I think, you know, when you're dealing with kids, there needs to be a lot more thought, a lot more responsibility, and a lot more planning that goes into it. And again, not for everybody. Every situation is completely different. But yeah, now I'm a parent. I think you'll understand. It breaks my heart to see these kids suffering. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the same thing, right? Like I waited, I'm 31, about to be 32. And honestly, I can honestly say even 2 years ago, I don't feel like I had my shit completely together. And, you know, I was on the path to, but, you know, when we made the conscious decision to, you know, we have a house now, we're financially stable, we have, you know, what we wanted and the criteria we kind of set, we checked a lot of those boxes, and we said, okay, now's the right time. And we tried, and, you know, it happened. And, you know, it was all planned, right? And I think that's what people need to understand. Of you can again, delayed gratification. Do it when you're actually prepared, or at least somewhat prepared. You know, some people may not never feel 100% ready, but you know, but try to check as many of those boxes as possible before you take on something that serious.
Absolutely agree. And dude, look, accidents happen, and for want of a better term, because I
Yeah.
believe a child's ever in an accident.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, step the fuck up.
100%.
Nothing more to say. Step the fuck up, put that child first. It's now your responsibility. Do what the fuck you got to do. That's all I say. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When are we ever really prepared to have a baby? I mean, for me, it literally was perfect timing. I'm very financially secure. I've got an amazing wife. I mean, it couldn't have been a better time for me, but that's not always the case. It's not always like that. But either way, you know, if I had have had a child before, I'd have stepped up. I'd have done my duty as a man and supported that child and that woman. I mean, obviously, probably wouldn't have been allowed anywhere near it, looking at the way that the legal system is in the UK, but you never know. I'd have done my duty.
Yeah, it's you figure out a way, right? You work 2 jobs, you do what you have to, 3 jobs if you have to, you know, whatever it may be, but there's always a route, there's always a path, right? Especially for the resilient person, the person that doesn't give up. That's why that's so important, right? And the people that fold right away, again, you can see that time and time again. I can tell you, you know, 100 acquaintances that I have that I can tell you right off the bat that they fold under pressure, right? And I can tell you 100 people that won't, right? And it's usually, I'll just say right now, the martial artists probably won't, are that group, right? So, you know, it becomes obvious, especially if you're that type of person, right? If you put yourself in those situations, then you start saying, you know what, you're probably one of my tribe, right? You're in my camp of that type of person who I can tell you get shit done, and I can tell that you'll do anything for your family. I can tell that you're ready to start your family, right? I have best friends who probably, or former best friends, I'd say, even at that, because they probably just fell more into the all fold camp, that I was able to tell, you know what, I don't see this happening for them. I don't see them wanting more for themselves. I don't see them stepping up if they ever got in that position.
Okay, there's a valid point, because look, we can sit and say, yeah, you should step up, you should do your duty, you should be a man, but do you know what? Some people just don't have it in them. They don't. So then we go back to the whole, what we mentioned earlier, that there's no one rule fits all. You know, some people, you know, every situation is different, and this is the problem with humanity. We're so dynamic. But yeah, interesting topics, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, you know, we're coming up on some time here. Tell me about your best experience with your son, man. You've had some time with him. What's one of the best experiences you've had with him that just, you know, pops to your mind that you're like, man, that was a great day, or man, that was something I'll always remember?
Bro, like, I have so many every single day. It's the most amazing, mind-blowing experience ever. And I've had a life. But honestly, I think here's the one. So when we first went to the hospital, he come 2 weeks early. We went into the hospital for a routine checkup, and we would arrange to go for some lunch with some friends after the hospital. So we popped in, and the doctor sat down and she's gone, yeah, let's just do a quick scan. She said, yeah, your water's very low. And his heart rate's dropping. And I'm like, okay. And she said it so nonchalantly, like so calm and relaxed. And she said, so he's coming now. I'm like, okay, so what? We come back after lunch? She's like, no, he's coming right now. She's picked up the phone and said, come and take Joy, please. We're literally going to induce the baby. And I'm like, fuck. What do you mean now? She said, right now. My wife's like, cool. She went, look, we're 2 weeks early, by the way. This is how amazing my wife is. She's gone, babe, go home. In the drawer next to my bed, she's got a brown bag and a green bag. Can you just bring them here for me? She'd already packed everything ready. My wife, just incredible. Anyway, I'm getting to the question. So I've flown back home. I've grabbed it. It's only an hour away, and I've gone back to the hospital. I got pulled over by the police on the way. I'm like, dude, you just got to let me go. And the Thai police are amazing. Like, oh yeah, no problem. You go. And they let me go. Turned up, and when I turned up and pulled it and sat down, I had her bags. They wheeled this incubator past, and I just see this hand come up, and I swear to God, that hand I knew was my son. I just saw his hand.
Man.
Bro, the feeling, even now I'm getting goosebumps, like my heart went, I was like, I couldn't breathe.
Man.
I saw his hand, and it was just like my hand, and I went, that's my fucking son. And that was the most incredible feeling I ever had. And from there, I mean, it's just got better and better. I mean, his smile, when he first come up to me and put his arms up, when he first said Papa, he first said Papa on Father's Day.
Oh man,
it was like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. How about you?
That's
Tell me.
awesome.
Tell me.
You snuck in too. That was like, The first one was already like giving me goosebumps. So then you're like, he also said Papa on Father's Day. That's awesome. That's beautiful, man.
Tell me yours, bro.
Man, for me, gosh, man, it probably, I probably already touched on it. It was a smiling at me for the first time. And it was just, my wife had gotten her to do it a couple days before, and I tried, and she wasn't quite there yet with me, but I saw my wife being able to do it, and she's just there, biggest smile. I'm just like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's already amazing just seeing it. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, in my head, I'm like, what's it gonna feel like when she does it to me? And then a few days later, sure enough, playing with her. I have her on her play mat, and just kind of making noises at her, and then same thing. She just like looks at me. I smile, big old smile at her, and then she gives me the big old smile, and it just completely melted me, man. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a moment you will never ever forget, is it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking like, man, like how does it get better? And then it just keeps getting better and better. And now I'm waiting for her to call me Poppy, and then from there crawling and all the other big milestones. And man, looking forward to all of that.
Recording the first steps. I mean, you hear about it. Like everyone spoke, all my friends have spoke about it for years. And they're like, oh, my baby, this, my baby that. I'm like, yeah, great. It's not an exclusive club. There's been quite a lot of them born, but now I'm like, I totally didn't get it. Now I get it. Now I feel like a right pillar for saying that to them. Like, yeah, it's very.
Right. Right. Yeah. It doesn't hit until you actually go through it. Yeah, that makes sense. Man, I don't know how better to end than that, unless do you have any last words, anything else that you feel like dads need to know, that you want to put out there? Anything that we as dads should be thinking about?
The only message I'd have for any father out there, anywhere in the world, if you come across my son and you've got a kid and it's going to compete against my son's going to fucking eat those kids alive unless you prepare your kid properly. Like there's no comparison to how determined and how serious my kid's going to be when it comes to winning. He's going against the grain of everything that these Western curriculums are teaching now, but he's going to be fair. He's not going to cheat. He's not going to lie. But just get your kids ready if he's going to compete against mine, is what I'd say.
I love that. Love that.
Unless it's a
That's
girl,
awesome.
he's going to be very respectful. He'll protect women. That much I will guarantee.
There you go. 100%. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you, Nick, so much, man, for the conversation. It was such a good time, man, and hopefully we can do this again, trade some more stories, and man, it was just a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, bro. Sorry, Cup.
Yeah.